Hello, can you hear that? Can you hear that?
I can hear it. It sounds like very low. How loud does it normally go?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Now, for those who don't know what the horn is, the horn being blown is what the English have always done through our ancient times. If the villagers got in trouble, they blew the horn, and the villagers had come out. Before they had times of police constables and everyone had come out. It was a sign of a warning, and it's where the term whistleblower comes from. It actually transverses all the way down to the ages to where police officers used to have loud crackers and they used to have whistles. And when they blew their whistles, the people would come out and actually assist the police officers. Because in England, we believe in the rule of law. We believe in the Magna Carta. We believe in the Bill of Rights. And we believe in our ancient laws and customs that protect everybody in England, and they protect you whether you are black, white, brown, yellow. It doesn't care. The Constitution is not interested in any of those other elements. It is only interested in protecting you as a human being. So what I do, my name is Graham Moore, otherwise known as Daddy Dragon Online. I basically go around the country teaching people about the English Constitution, the English Bill of Rights. So in front of you, what you've got, predating this, was something called the Magna Carta of 1215. Some people say that it doesn't exist anymore. Well, if you was going back to one of our old laws and justices, Sir Edward Coke, the original Magna Carta of 1215 wasn't used for 200 years. And under English law, you cannot repeal it. So what he done was he used the Magna Carta and started to bring it back because there was tyranny. And in that tyranny, the abuses of the state started to attack the English. And the English rose up, not just in law, but through their ancient rights. So what you're actually seeing in front of you there is the Magna Carta, the statutory version. Now the statutory version, that was in an English Parliament. Again, Magna Carta of 1297. If you go and read what it says, this is still law, English law, not British. The British don't have any laws, believe it or not, and I will tell you about that. So what does it say? Section 19, imprisonment contrary to the law and administration of justice. No free man shall be taken or imprisoned, or be deceased of his freehold, or liberties, or free custom, or be outlawed or exiled, or any otherwise destroyed, nor will we not pass upon him, nor condemn him, but with lawful judgment of his peers. That means a jury, people. A jury is the fourth protection mechanism of England, and English law. They can void every act of Parliament, or by the law of England, and we sell to no man. We will not deny or defer to any man either justice or right. So let me ask you a question, people. What has this government and what has this Parliament, this British Parliament, taken from the English?
Everything!
Every right we ever had has been taken. Let me tell you something, people. Not only have we got a constitution, but the best constitution in the world. That constitution was exported to the United States of America. And in the United States of America, they still believe in God. The oath that they take to protect the Constitution against all men, all foreigners, foreign and domestic. In other words, when you attack the Constitution, you attack the people. And that is exactly what this British Parliament have done. They have used military-grade propaganda against the people of this country.
Yes.
And we, the English, will stand up and take back not only our country, but our Parliament and our rights. Our ancestors fought and died for this country. And let me tell you something, their blood, sweat and tears will not go to waste. The British are a minority. The English are 57%, 2011 census. We are not racist. Our constitution is not racist. We protect, we the English, stopped slavery. The British wanted to carry it on. Just across the road there, you'll see the estuary. And again, I'm going to show you a banner.
The estuary's just across the road. They're going to get a banner out now.
There's something in English law called the writ of habeas corpus. In 1772, if you go back slightly earlier, 1703, Sir John Holt said of slavery, you cannot be a slave in England. You can be a villain, but you can't be a slave. That started to reverberate around the world because of the British colonies. And England is a colony of the British Empire. Take it back. With that said, there was a case with John Somerset, a black man. The colonies knew if they got to England, the blacks would be free. And they fought their way back to England. They made their way to England, and when their feet touched English shores, they were free. They were no longer slaves. One man, John Somerset, in 1772, was captured by his British barrister, and he was put on a ship in London. They chained him to the mast. They chained him to the mast. Yeah. They chained him to the mast. And another guy, a normal tradesman, a working man, a common lawyer, come down from Durham in the north of England, and he asked for a writ in the English courts, the High Court, and that writ was of the habeas corpus. They were served. Now this guy called Grenville Sharp took a cutter and they stopped the slave ship right by Southend. They took the slave ship and they demanded the release of the slave. John Somerset was released from his chains. He was taken into the fast cutter and taken back into London. This is what the British don't tell you. What happened in that case? Grenville Sharp, a normal working man just like us, stood against the British and stood with the black slave. And what happened? His barrister stood up in that court and said, the English air is too pure for any slave to breathe. Free the black! Lord Mansfield then said to the British slavers, you better release that slave because you're not going to like my judgment under English law. 9 months it took him, and in the end he released that judgment. And that judgment was, you cannot be a slave in England. Release the black. John Somerset was released. The slavers carried on, but not in England. In England, the blacks come here to be free men and women. It was the English that freed the slaves. But they will never teach you that in school, because the British try and cast the English as racist. There isn't a racist among us. The British divide and rule. The British have caused wars all over the world because of their empire, because of their imperialism. And what we're saying is it stops now. What you can see in front of you is the Coronation Oath Act. Where did this come from? In 1668, the Glorious Revolution. That was where Prince William come with his fleet from Holland as Protestants to protect England. And it was against the Catholics, but not ordinary Catholics, Jesuits. The Jesuits are like jihadis. Not everyone is bad in their religions. There are groups in each part. Everyone has got good and bad. But these people tried to destroy England. And what we've got, hopefully, is the Coronation Oath Act. What Her Majesty did was swore to protect the English common law, the Magna Carta, our ancient laws and customs. These are all the laws that belong to you. Now there is another one. This is what the Queen, this is current law, people. This isn't, that hasn't gone away. The British are ignoring it. Our Constitution protects every man, woman and child. It's what our ancestors fought and died for. So the next one will be, I think, the Act of Settlement. I'll go through these. At the end, I will talk you through what the British have took away from us. And the British have took away that Parliament. I want to say this to everyone. Don't blame the immigrants in this country. Blame the British politicians for setting up the divide and rule that they have always done. You must respect the immigrants that come here for a better life. But they must respect us and our English laws. And the vast majority do. Don't let the British divide and rule. The English have never tolerated it, and we're not going to tolerate it. What you're seeing in front of you there is the Act of Settlement of 1700. This is again valid law. Do you understand what I say by valid law? It is still in force to this day. Upon this Act of Settlement, it is as equal to the Bill of Rights itself. The English Bill of Rights. The English Bill of Rights that they never teach you about in school. They stopped teaching you about your rights in the early 1970s. Why did they do that? Because the Bill of Rights has a supremacy clause that says that the English are supreme and sovereign in their own nation. That no one can rule the English. Here is the Act of Settlement. The English Act of Settlement states, now listen to this carefully, the Act of Settlement states quite clearly that the English laws are the birthright of the English. That means they are heir rights. You have, every single one of you. But let me just say this to you people. You're passing these rights on to your children and your great-grandchildren. That's why you're standing here. And you don't stand here for me, you stand here for yourselves, for what you believe. We are being shut down. Our ancestors fought and died for these rights. They're now, again, putting experimental vaccines into kids. When do you think our ancestors would ever have stood for that? They wouldn't. And there's a group of those people, your ancestors passed on you the core of freedom, the English instinct for liberty and freedom. And that is the people that are standing here today. So you should give yourself a round of applause because you're the English, and be proud to be English. And again, remember what the horn stood for. It was the English warning. So when you get people going out and they go to all these different places, these vaccine centres, the media, the British media and their propaganda are vilifying those people. Our ancient ancestors would be doing the same. They are warning people of the danger. Informed consent is part of the common law. Intimidation is a tort and a criminal offence. If you're being intimidated to take a vaccine, no jab, no job. If you're working for the National Health Service, we're supporting you. The Bill of Rights. Now this is very interesting. The Bill of Rights gave us inalienable rights. We already had those rights. A lot of people don't realise we've got the right to keep and bear arms, and it still exists in our constitutional law. We, the English, were the ones who passed Article 5 onto the Americans, which is their Article 2 Second Amendment. So what we're doing is looking at this and saying, all of this is still law. Let me just say to you people, you are protected in every way. At the end of this, I'm going to show you one last slide, and you'll understand why I'm so passionate about England and our rights. But the Bill of Rights come from the Declaration of Rights. The Declaration is something like 10 scrolls added together. And the monarch agreed to all of these set principles. They then converted it into the Bill of Rights. They converted it by another Act of Parliament, which was the Parliament and Recognition Act. These cannot be repealed, but the British and the British Parliament are pretending to you that they can be, and that they can remove them. Currently, they are looking at trying to impose upon the English a British Bill of Rights that removes all of these rights, that removes our ancient laws and customs. The British themselves don't have an identity. They have tried to steal the English identity. They don't have a Bill of Rights. They don't have a constitution. They haven't got a country. Well done. The Acts of Union of 1706 and 1707, that was a political union between the Scottish Parliament and the English Parliament only. The Welsh was already with the English. But let me just say this to you people. They have abused their powers. The British have gone with the European Union to divide England into regions. England is counties. How many counties, separate counties, have we got here today? I can tell you there's people from Lancashire, Staffordshire, Yorkshire,
Yay!
Kent, Essex. There's the biggest chair for Essex. Sussex! Yay! There's a few in Sussex here. Right, people need to understand England has counties. Durham! Let's hear something for Durham. That's it. Who? Warwickshire. That's it. So we're going through them. Now let me just say this to you people. Our natural way of governance is the people. We have now got a centralised government. They have centralised everything. We live
Southend-On-Sea, guys.
in Soviet Britain. That is the core basis. The Acts of Union now has morphed into what the USSR is, what the European Union is, and what Yugoslavia was. You need to understand that the regionalisation was done by the British. That means the Tories, socialists. That means the Labour Party, the Marxists, the communists, the fascists, and yeah, Labour Party are fascists. Trust me, you've only got to understand. Did you know that the English common law forbids what I stand for and what you stand for? The English common law forbids fascism, communism, and Marxism. You know why? Because there's a doctrine called restraint of trade. It goes back 800 years, when no man can take your living off you. No monarch can take your living off you. What are they doing now? Saying saying to you, if you don't have a jab, you've lost your job. That is against the doctrine of the English for 800 years. You have got the right to earn a living. You have got the right to care about other people because you are English. Stand up for your rights. So the Bill of Rights, set against, and again, this has been used over and over again. It was most recently used, and by the way, the British like doing this. When the Bill of Rights supports something that the British in Parliament are doing, they'll use the Bill of Rights. When one of you stands in a court and says to one of their British judges, I stand under the Bill of Rights, the British judge returns, not here you don't. That's what happened in the USSR. When Russia took back their country from the USSR, the Soviet Union, they purged the Soviet judges from the system to give back the people the Russian constitution. The Polish did the same. And when they refer to you as British, I want you to remember, if you was a Russian or Polish or Romanian and someone called you a Soviet, how do you think they're going to respond? They're going to stand up and say, I'm Russian. I am not a Soviet. Well, I'm English. I am not British.
Right. You flagged him that I sent you.
Is that on the radio, please?
There we go. What's
Is that on
that?
the radio?
Yeah, you're live.
Say hello, guys. That's the radio around the world. Hey, Tim. Hope you're well. If you can hear me.
So it's getting live streamed as well. People are live streaming this.
Guys, do me a favour. Download this if you will, Rich. I'm sure you can do it in case it goes missing.
This lady said, God bless the president.
Oh, right, must be
Oh, no, they out there.
Right, here we go. Am I in shot still?
Yeah.
Right, for the people who don't know, I am now going to go through some of the stuff that I'm passionate about. This is why I get shut down, and there's police officers here now, right? I'm asking you a question. Why does what I say, why does that get me shut down on YouTube? Why does it get me shut down on Twitter? Because they're socialist and it's controlled by the British and the British Empire. What I'm doing is warning the English about what they're doing. I'm warning the Americans that the blueprint to destroy England is the same blueprint they are deploying in the United States of America. And the United States of America is the most powerful nation in the world, not because of its populace, not because of the size of the country, but because of their constitution and their belief in God.
Southend-On-Sea.
That's why they're powerful, because they have principles and the people are sovereign. This, at the top, is fairly obvious. There is the English flag. Below are the common law constitutional rights belonging to the English. The right of the realm of England and its subjects to defend themselves. The right to a jury. Who took the right for you to be armed? The British. What is it that socialists, fascists and communists do before a genocide? They disarm the people. You are being warned. The only people that are armed against us is not our military that has been removed from 350,000 good men, honourable men, to a 70,000 small army. I was going to swear, I never did. The police have been increased in their powers. The police carry batons, they carry gas, they carry firearms, and we have been disarmed. If you go back through English law, that never happened before. 120,000 police officers doing the bidding of the British Parliament, state enforcers, Not working for the people, but working for that parliament. And anything they say they do, go and read the history. Ordinary men. There is a book about the Nazis, and it tells you the truth. And the truth is that the people who were the purebred Nazis were ordinary men. They were police officers. They was putting their guns to the back of the heads of the Jews and anyone they didn't like, and they were shooting them. You're not far off it, people. They took our army down. They've destroyed every English regiment. The Buffs, otherwise known as the Kent Regiment. The Dragons. That's what they was called.
The Green Howards!
Again, every single part of our English army has been destroyed. They have now traded our armed forces to the European Union. They have put our armed forces at the disposal of people with a foreign policy to bomb other countries without you having a say in it. Blair has a lot to answer for.
Yeah!
Again, the right to a jury. Most jury offences have been abolished. Who abolished them? The British. The jury is the fourth line of defence for any member of the public, because you can stand in front of a jury and you can tell them what's happened, and the jury can do something called jury nullification. A jury is the last line of defence against tyranny, and the British have removed the majority of it. They're trying to take everything, while you people get £10,000 fines for opening your business. Boris and the merry men of the Conservative, and they're not Conservative Tories, right, and the rest of them are on their jolly, while your families, your businesses are all suffering. What did they do? They had a party.
Lots of parties.
Loads of parties. And the police backed them up, and they're still backing them up.
And I got convicted.
And you got convicted. And there is Kate, who will be with us in a couple of seconds. The right to remain silent. How many of you now know that the right to remain silent is gone? They removed it. They can't remove it, but their caution has changed. The prosecution must prove your guilt. You don't have to prove you're innocent. From the moment you are asked, for example, your name, if you've done nothing wrong, you're entitled to say no comment. And it's already been backed up recently in the court, in the High Court. Who are the people who took that? The British. Again, your right to earn a living. I've already covered it. It's been taken away. When they can stop you working and stop tradesmen and women, nurses, doctors, everybody from earning a living, and the corporations are the ones that carry on unaffected. You've got to look the right to full freedom of navigation and trade. What did they do? They said you can't leave your houses. You can't go from A to B. You can't go on an aircraft unless you've got a vaccine passport. You can't do this, you can't do that. That's very British and very globalist. Well, we're English and we're constitutionalists, and we're telling them they can't do it. And we're going to keep telling them they can't do it. The right to bring up and protect our own children. I was one of the individuals that stood up for a little girl who the state murdered. 6 years old. Still makes me emotional now. Let me tell you something. The state murdered a 6-year-old little girl. They took her off of life support machine. And this person, a lay person in English common law, took the British government to court. And I'm the first person in this country ever to successfully get an injunction against the British government. We saved her life and got her to her 6th birthday. But let me tell you something. They murdered that child with their British stinking laws and their British stinking justice. And the English need to protect children. Adults protect children. Children do not protect adults. The right of habeas corpus. Again, people, are you all aware? Not only did we stop, the English stopped the slaves, we made slavery unlawful. It was already unlawful in England, right? Let me tell you something. Do you know how they took our rights to habeas corpus? Do you know where it was? And I was there. I was protesting. I was in that parliament, banging on the screen when Theresa May signed the European arrest warrant, where any one of you can be taken anywhere in Europe without your consent. When has that ever happened to an Englishman? Stand up for Essex. Stand up for the Essex and English Constitution. You, the people of Essex, rebelled with the Essex Rifles, with your right to defend the realm. You repelled Napoleon on the beaches of Essex. They took that away from you. You have the right to defend this nation. You have the right to defend the people of England. And we will stand together, black, white, brown and yellow. The Constitution protects us all. The pretended power. So again, the right to assert English ancient rights and liberties. We have the right to stand here and do this. It is an ancient right. You go to some parts of the country, especially the Metropolitan Police in London. I've personally been attacked. There are people, funny enough, the fella standing there was personally beaten to the ground. And it's on video. For standing up and speaking. That's all he did. With 8 or 9 riot squad jumping all over him. Right? And these people think they can get away with it. Because, let me tell you something, let's go back to the book, Ordinary Men. Who was it? The Nazis, the real SS, the people, the Gestapo, the people putting the bullets, physically putting the bullets in the back of people's heads. It was the police. Now you better wake up. I know you all have, but we need to wake these people up. In America, they're still hanging on by their teeth because they're trying to take their guns. I wouldn't allow anyone to have a firearm, as long as you are not mentally ill. By the way, people, even in America, they don't let you have a gun if you're mentally ill, right? They never tell you that Switzerland, 52% of the population are armed. The government give them 50 rounds of ammunition every year. Let me just say this to you. Have you ever wondered why Switzerland has never been invaded by the Nazis, by the communists? I'll tell you why. Because they got 5 million people with firearms saying, come and get them. That's what happens. That's how you stop tyranny. That pretended power of dispensing with laws is illegal. They dispense with all our ancient laws and customs. That is illegal in this country. That pretended power, the right to petition the monarch, commitments and prosecutions for such petitioning are illegal. Has anyone seen the video with me petitioning Her Majesty outside Buckingham Palace and being arrested, carted off in handcuffs? Guess what happened when I got to the worst magistrates in the country, Westminster, in front of a judge? The judge said to me, Mr. Moore, what are you relying on your defence, sir? And I held up a copy of the Bill of Rights, and I held up a copy of the Coronation Oath, and I said, I rely on my English rights to petition Her Majesty. I rely on my English rights and the common oath that Her Majesty took to protect me. He said, fair enough. He looked at the prosecution and he said, have you got any evidence? And what's he done wrong? And the CPS stood up and said, So 30 police officers from the Metropolitan Police, including a chief superintendent, 2 inspectors, 4 sergeants, and others on horses, who, by the way, rode into disabled people, right? What did they say? They said, none of our cameras are working, sir. So the judge said, so well, 30 cameras are suddenly switched off. He said, have you got a single statement from any officer? And the CPS stood up and said, no, sir. And the judge looked at me and said, Mr. Moore. I said, yes, sir. He said, you are free to leave. And the people listening, over 100 people in that court cheered. And the judge said, this is not a pantomime. And one of them stood up with the English flag and said, oh yes it is.
Well done.
By the way, I also got costs awarded to me for the witnesses that turned up. So, the right to petition the monarch, the election of members of parliament ought to be free. That means there should be no interference with anyone who's standing up for politics. So if you want to stand as a candidate, you should be able to stand. The attacks they're seeing on people, anyone that goes outside of the mainstream politics, the attacks from the British media, because they don't want people like us, and they certainly don't want people like me that hug a black guy or hug a brown guy. And I tell people, listen, there is such thing as indigenous rights, and we are white people in England, but we are the people that give everyone else their rights. So why disrespect us? And all of the ones I've ever met said, we don't, we stand with you. So what we're saying to you, literally, is be proud, because the UN, under the 2007 Declaration on Indigenous Rights, guess what, people? The UN protects us as an indigenous nation and an indigenous people, because we put our arm round everyone for liberty and freedom. Remember that. We're not the bad guys. The bad guys are the British imperialists, the colonialists, and we are the last colony of the British Empire. Again, it goes all the way through, it gives you certain rights, etc. But I'm going to finish this part and try and repair my voice if I can. Listen to the last part. That no foreign prince, person, prelate, state or pontificate have or ought to have any jurisdiction, power, superiority, preeminence or authority, ecclesiastical or spiritual, within this realm. So help me God. Amen.
Amen.
We're the English, you don't tell us what to do. Above, so again I started this, below the common law constitutional rights belonging to the English. Look at the Act of Settlement. It actually tells you that these rights and these laws and the English laws are the birthright of the English. Again at the bottom, you'll see the British flag. Above are the common law constitutional rights removed by the British. Understand who has took your rights. Understand who is doing this. Understand who is, and they've done it for centuries. They divide and rule, right? Don't be suckered into any of this divide and rule. What a lot of these people are doing in the background, they're just falling in line with the British. And let me tell you something, I will never, all the time I have got a beating heart, and I've already had one heart attack on a protest. Let me tell you something, all the time I've got a beating heart and there's breath in my body. I would do everything in my power to save this country and save the future generations. Our ancestors held that flame, eternal flame of freedom. And it is for us in this generation to take that eternal flame and pass it on to the children. That's what we're here for. And we're in a time of history that we need to stand up and do that. Take back your rights from the British, dispense with the British, and everything, you'll have 1,000 years of peace. Do is stand up, and all of you are doing exactly that. That's it.